Black History Month is an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans and for a time for recognizing the central role blacks in American history played. But in today's political climate, led by a president who seems all too often willfully ignorant of and insensitive to the concerns of black Americans, the implications of what is happening in Washington are lost. Joining me now is Marc Morial, President and CEO of the National Urban League.
Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning. Marc, the state of black America, the Urban League puts out a report every year. You're starting a podcast tomorrow. I think that unless we have the context, that we make the wrong judgments. And I think that a lot of Americans don't have the context. When you hear the president saying, well, black unemployment's lower than it's ever been, which really started under President Obama, but it is still double unemployed to whites. The context is not there.
Well,
straighten out where we are in black America.
President Trump's line should have been, and black unemployment is lower than it's ever been. Thank you, President Obama.
Right.
The truth is that black unemployment under President Obama plunged from about 16% down to 7.8%. So he cut it in half from the times of the Great Recession. And that context in terms of the economy that President Trump inherited should always be part of the narrative. But you're right, but there's also something else. In addition to double the unemployment rate of whites, blacks face, like many whites and Latinos, but disproportionately blacks face this, the fact that that paycheck doesn't go as far as it used to go.
Exactly.
Wage stagnation, income inequality, people's check doesn't buy all of the necessities of life, and that's a reality of now. And any economic go forward has to deal with that and confront that. The other thing that we have to say during Black History Month is black Americans have been incredibly resilient, tremendously successful in many respects, but still face struggles. But we have to lift up the pride that we should have for the contributions that people have made to the arts, to the media, to business, to politics, to civic affairs, not only nationally, but at the local level all across this nation since the founding of this country.
And that's what we celebrate, because for so long it was excluded. Let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you two things, putting you on the spot. We work together, so I can take the liberty of doing this. Last 2 or 3 administrations, all of us have, including George Bush, been able to talk to people and have access to making our points, even though, in my case, I would lead marches and all where I disagreed. You participate in ways that you would disagree. So you had under Bill Clinton everyone from a Mignon Moore in the White House to a Vernon Jordan, or even under George Bush, you had the people that we could George Bush spoke at the Urban League and met with all of us. Under President Obama, we all had meetings several times a year.
There's always been, until this administration.
That's where I wanted to go. Who's the person in this administration? I know Omarosa's been fighting. This is the first time I can remember that there is a White House that has no accessibility to the civil rights leadership at all.
This has been one of the least diverse White House staff in modern American history, and it's been...
Is there a black on the West Wing?
I'm not sure. I'm not aware of anybody African American.
So you're saying that you as the president,
I
know I'm an outlier in terms of that, but you as the president of the National Urban League that have hosted Republican and Democratic president, you can't name a black on the West Wing.
I cannot at this time name an African American.
All right, let me ask you another question. As the head of the National Urban League, do you know a black that was an executive in the Trump organization?
No. Not at all.
And you work in the corporate world. That's what.
And I'm not aware. And if there was,
you don't even know an ex-black Trump.
I do not know that his business organization or his White House organization has been diverse in any respects. And you know, George Bush the father, George Bush the son, both the 2 prior Republican presidents had African Americans on their staff. It wasn't at the level we'd like, but there were African Americans. But here's the important thing: when we disagreed with George W. Bush on education or Katrina, there was a dialogue with George W. Bush, always with Bill Clinton, always with Barack Obama. And I think that the civil rights leadership of this country has an important role to play as part of the moral compass of this nation in these challenging and difficult times. The relationship with the president directly, which troubled me about the president mainly, is that the president seems to be into stereotypes about Black America. I think he needs to take half a day, go to the African American Museum, sit down and educate himself about the contributions of African Americans. Yeah. It would be good for him. It would be good for the nation.
And again, I don't want to be misunderstood here. We're not asking to talk to. He did call me, as you know, and asked to meet, and I told him I would only meet if all of us could meet. This is not about a meeting or access. This is about how he conducts this country's business.
It's not about symbolism. We're talking about the president. Of course, we went in and had a conversation with the Attorney General.
Right.
I've had conversations with the Secretary of Labor and the Secretary of HUD. But we're talking about the President of the United States here. Right. And I think that in Black History Month, we need to reaffirm that every administration, whether it be Democratic or Republican, needs to reflect the makeup not just of one's, quote, political supporters, but we should represent the makeup of the nation. And that, I think, is a basic value we all share.
All right. Thank you very much for being with me this morning, Mark Mariel.
Happy Black History.
Tomorrow.